Hi everybody, I hope this video finds you well. In today's video, I will be introducing our class, Math 150 150S, and going over the syllabus for our course. Let me start by saying a little bit about the structure of our class. Our class will be taught in what is called an asynchronous manner. This means there will be no mandatory meeting times during the semester, and all content will be delivered to you via lecture videos on YouTube. We will also be making a lot of use of our Canvas page. On our Canvas page, you will find all the files you need for our class, announcements, discussion boards, and your grades. You will also be submitting all of your assignments via Canvas. With all that being said, what is Math 150 really all about? Well, it is a survey course introducing statistics and probability. That means that during the next 16 weeks, we will be covering a wide range of topics from sampling theory to descriptive statistics to probability, inferential statistics, and data modeling. Our course won't go super deep into any one area, but instead it will try to provide you with a framework that will be useful in future classes, other disciplines, or just life in general. This class is truly one of the most directly and immediately applicable classes you can take, so I'm really excited to work with all of you for the next 16 weeks. Now that we've talked about a brief overview of the content of our class, let's dive into the main part of the syllabus, starting with an introduction. My name is Ben Mitchell, and I'll be your instructor for the next 16 weeks for our class. The first thing I want to call your attention to on our syllabus are the contact methods and contact information. Since this class is completely online, I want to make sure you all know the different ways you have of reaching out to me. First, you can always send me direct emails at bmitchell@elcamino.edu. Second, we will have weekly office hours via Zoom. Those times are listed here, Tuesdays from 11 to 12 and Thursdays from 2 to 3. Third and finally, for all major sets of practice exercises, review guides, and take-home assignments, we will have Canvas discussion boards. My general recommendation is that you send personal or grade-related questions via email, ask in-depth content questions during the Zoom office hours, and ask quicker or smaller content questions via the discussion boards. However, feel free to utilize all of these methods of communication in whatever way works best for you. The most important thing in an online class like ours is to be proactive with your communication. If you have questions at any time about any aspect of our class, always feel free to reach out and do so right away. Now that we've talked about the main modes of communication, direct email, Zoom office hours, and Canvas discussion boards, let's talk a little bit about the prerequisites for this course. To take this course, you should have a passing grade in Math 80, 73, or 67. All of those at El Camino are intermediate algebra courses. Despite the prerequisite for this class being intermediate algebra, there actually isn't a lot of algebra necessary in this class. We'll solve a few basic linear equations, but most of the work we'll be doing in this class is more computational. We'll be plugging in values into expressions and evaluating them. That means if you haven't taken algebra for a while or you feel like your algebra skills are a bit rusty, you don't have much to worry about there. Instead, the one main prerequisite piece of mathematical knowledge that you need for this class is a comfortability with fractions, decimals, and percentages. We'll be doing a lot of work with these different mathematical objects. We'll be converting very frequently between fractions, decimals, and percentages, so it's essential to make sure you're comfortable with these concepts. If it's been a while since you've encountered these, or you just want a little bit of review, the very first section in our course notes actually goes back over this main prerequisite. So make sure to take a look at that if you'd like a little bit of review. Other than that, you don't need to worry about too many other things from prior math courses. Pretty much everything you need to know in this class is taught to you in this class. All right, let's take a look at the next part of our syllabus. We've got this description of our course here. We're not going to spend too much time talking about this right now because a lot of this stuff won't really make sense until we really get started in our course. But I would like to talk a little bit about the support side of our class. Technically, in this class, you're enrolled in 2 classes, Math 150, which is an introduction to statistics and probability, and Math 150S, which is the corresponding support course. This support course was designed to basically give you guys some additional time to review and practice the prerequisite skills for this class, as well as giving you a little bit more time to work with the material that's presented in this class. For our class, since we're completely online and asynchronous, this support section will be handled via practice worksheets that will be posted weekly, along with additional practice solution videos that you can watch to make sure you're understanding the major concepts of each week. In general, support really should just be viewed as an additional opportunity to review and sort of engage with the material that's being presented in our class. Now that we've talked a little bit about what support means and what the 150S component of our class looks like, let's talk about the materials necessary for this class. First of all, the textbook. There is no required textbook for this class. Instead, you guys will be provided with course notes that I've written that will be posted and periodically updated on our Canvas page. These course notes take the place of a traditional textbook. They have all the definitions that you need. They have the additional examples for you to read through, practice problems for you to try. They act just like a textbook, but they're free and provided to you directly. So you don't need to worry about buying any textbook for this course. What you do need to make sure you get for this class is a calculator. You must have a calculator capable of statistical testing. I would recommend a TI-84 Plus model, but as long as you pick something that is a TI-83, 84, 84 Plus, 87, 89, as long as it's sort of a TI brand, you should be good in this class. The reason I strongly recommend a TI brand rather than other brands of calculators is that in the demonstration videos where I show you guys how to use the calculator, I use a TI brand calculator. I use an 84 Plus, so it'll be easier for you to follow along if you have a similar calculator. If you have a different brand of calculator, you're certainly welcome to use it, but it'll be your responsibility to figure out how to do the same operations that we're doing on the TI on your calculator. You can always reach out to me and ask questions, but if you want the easiest way of doing it, you want to make sure you get a TI-84 Plus model calculator or above. If you don't have a calculator already and you are hesitant about buying a calculator for this class, El Camino offers a technology loan program which includes lending out calculators for the semester. Information about that will be sent out in some of the welcome emails that you'll be receiving or have already received, depending on when you're watching this. And there will also be information about that calculator loan program posted on Canvas. So it's definitely a great option because they lend you TI-84 Pluses, so it'll be exactly the same calculator I'm using in the demonstration videos. And of course, aside from a deposit, it's a free opportunity to get a calculator for the term. Regardless of how you decide to get a calculator, either buying one yourself or using the loan program, you must get a calculator as soon as possible because we'll start using the calculator very early on in our course and we'll use it throughout the entirety of the class. So, in summary, the only real required material for our class is a calculator. If you ever have any questions about the type of calculator, or once we've started in class, if you ever have questions about how to use your calculator, always feel free to ask. The calculator is a tool, but it is not the point of what we're learning in this class. So you can always feel free to ask about how to do things on the calculator. We just want to make sure you're using the right tool here. All right, with all that being said, let's move on to page 2 of our syllabus. On page 2, you'll find that there's a big pile of course objectives as well as some support objectives and student learning outcomes. All this stuff is interesting and important, but it's not really relevant right now. I do think sometimes it can be sort of a fun exercise midway through the course or at the end of our class to go back and look over all this stuff, and really you can see how far you've come in 16 weeks. You can see all these different things that might not make sense right now, but you'll have learned by the end of our class. But for now, let's go ahead and move on to the next page to really talk about what you should expect in terms of assessments and assignments. So let's talk about grading policies. For our class, you'll have 3 categories of assignments. You'll have take-home quizzes, which make up 25% of your overall grade. You'll have 3 midterms that make up 45% of your overall grade, and a comprehensive final that makes up 30% of your final grade. All of these categories are given a weighted percentage, so it's not about the individual points for the assignments, it's about the percentage weight of the category. Luckily, Canvas takes care of weighting your grades for you. So if you ever take a look at Canvas and look at your current grade, that does give you an accurate picture of where you currently stand in our class. In terms of a grading scale, El Camino is very simple. We don't do pluses and minuses here, so there are only 5 possible letter grades. 90% and above is an A, 80 to 89% is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, D is 60 to 69%, and F is everything else there. So this grading scale here, right, just your standard A, B, C, D, F grading scale. With all that being said, let's talk a little bit about the different categories of assignments. Let's start by talking about quizzes. You'll pretty much have quizzes every week. Quizzes will be due every Tuesday except those weeks immediately following the midterm. So you can pretty much think about the fact that you'll have a quiz due every week except for a week sort of break right after each midterm. For the quizzes, you must submit your own work for these quizzes, but you are certainly allowed to discuss the quiz with your classmates. In fact, there will be a discussion board on Canvas for each quiz, so if you want to post questions on there, you certainly can. You can ask me questions about the quiz on the discussion board or via email or during office hours. The quizzes are really check-ins to make sure you're understanding the material we're doing each week, so always feel free to ask about them. Quizzes will be submitted electronically. All of your assignments in this class are submitted electronically via Canvas and must be submitted as a single PDF file. If you haven't submitted assignments via Canvas before, there is an electronic submissions guidelines document on our Canvas page that helps you go through how to get your work into a PDF format, how to submit it onto Canvas, all that stuff. So make sure you take a look at that. If you ever have any questions about how to format your work or how to submit it via Canvas, always feel free to let me know. It's better to do that beforehand, before it gets close to a deadline, because you don't want to be late for things. But definitely always feel free to reach out about those. Quizzes will be due by 11:59 p.m. on the day they are due. So on those Tuesdays, you have all the way until 11:59 p.m. to submit. Submissions that are late or in an incorrect format will be penalized. Again, details about how to do this electronic submission can be found on Canvas. At the end of the term, your lowest quiz score will be dropped. So one of those quiz scores, whichever is lowest, won't be counted towards your final grade. All right, the second major category of assessments we have for this class are your midterms. Midterms, the dates are already set for those, though they will be held on the Fridays of weeks 4, 8, and 12. So basically every 4 weeks, we will have a midterm. Midterms will be made available at 9 a.m. and due by 5 p.m. the same day. That means these midterms will be available for an 8-hour window. The exams themselves are written to take about 2 hours, but you can use as much or as little of that 8-hour window as you would like to complete your exam. You just need to make sure that you submit it by 5 p.m. on the day that the day of the exam. While taking the exams, you'll be allowed access to your notes. For that, we mean access to any of our course materials. So that can be your own notes, the lecture videos, the course notes I've provided to you, or any practice problems and review guides that you want to look over. You are not allowed to discuss work on the midterms with any other students in this class or any individuals outside of our class. Midterms will be submitted electronically via Canvas and must be submitted as a single PDF file, so just like the quizzes there. No makeup exams will be given, so absolutely make sure that these days are available for you to take the exam. And that's why I'm telling you guys from the very beginning of the term when all the exams occur, so that if you do need to shift things around in your schedule, you have lots of time to do so. If at the end of the term one of these exams did get missed, maybe due to an unforeseen emergency, or if one of the exams simply doesn't go as well as you were hoping, one exam score can be replaced by the final exam score if the final exam score is higher. So if you do well in your final, we will take the lowest of your midterm exam scores and replace it with that final exam. Again, submissions that are late or in an incorrect format will be penalized. Finally, the last category of assessment is your final exam. The final exam is a comprehensive or cumulative exam, meaning it covers everything from the very beginning of our class all the way to the very end of our class. It will be held on the last day of the semester, which is, for you guys, Friday, December 17th. The final exam will be similar to the midterms in the sense that it'll be made available at 9 a.m. It's a bit longer though, so it'll be due by 9 p.m. the same day. Once again, it's not meant that you need to take 12 hours to finish the final exam. It should take you about 3 to 4 hours, but you do have a full 12-hour window to complete it if you want to. Once again, just like the midterms, while working on the final exam, you can access any of our course materials you like, the lecture videos, your own notes, the course notes, the practice problems, etc. However, you're not allowed to discuss or work on the final exam with any other students in the class or any individuals outside of our class. Just like everything else in our course, your final exam will be submitted electronically via Canvas and must be submitted as a single PDF file. Once again, submissions that are late or in an incorrect format will be penalized. So overall, during our term, you guys will have basically weekly quizzes, 3 midterms every 4 weeks, and then on the very last day of our semester, a final exam. Those assignments, by the end of it, you'll have taken about 11 quizzes, 3 midterms, and 1 final. Those will make up the entirety of your grade. At this point, if we were having this discussion in person, we'd probably open it up for some questions, and one of the questions that would get asked here would be about extra credit. I want to say 2 things about extra credit in our class. First of all, there are no extra credit assignments for our course, so your grade is entirely determined by these quizzes, the midterm, and the final exam. However, you will find some extra credit problems on pretty much every assignment. So extra credit for our class is built into all these assessments. You'll generally expect to find 1 or 2 extra credit questions on each quiz, midterm, and the final. With all that being said, let's move on to the next page of our syllabus. On the next page of our syllabus, it's just a quick recap of some of the general requirements and important dates for the term. So, first of all, just a quick reminder about the asynchronous nature of our class. Remember that all lecture materials will be presented through videos posted on YouTube. That means that all the videos for our class will be found on a playlist named Math 150 Fall 2021. There'll be a separate playlist for those practice solution videos that I mentioned for the support section. You'll get information about that during the welcome sort of emails, and it'll also be on Canvas. I'll update you regularly about what videos have been posted, as well as giving you a sort of proposed schedule for what videos you should be watching each week. Associated with the videos are suggested exercises that I've written for your practice. I'll include those in the schedule so you know which videos to watch and then which practice problems to try to make sure you understand the material presented in those videos. It is highly recommended that you do as many of those practice problems as possible to make sure you are comfortable with the topics and concepts presented in the videos. The second thing I want to mention here, again, just a reminder, no textbook necessary for our course, but for additional practice, you will also have a set of course notes, replacing that standard textbook, posted to Canvas. These course notes go over the same concepts covered in the lecture videos, so the same material in the lecture videos as is in the course notes, but also provide some additional practice problems to try. So I really highly recommend, even though it's going over the same material, to watch the lecture videos and read the course notes so that you get multiple perspectives on the same material. Third bullet here, keep in mind that all documents necessary for the class will be found on our Canvas site. So you want to make sure during the first week or so of our class, you take some time to navigate and get yourself familiar with our Canvas site. These documents include the suggested exercises, quizzes, review guides, and other supplemental materials. Canvas will also be used to submit all your assignments, keep track of your grades, and provide a source of announcements for our class. The main announcements you'll be getting each week are those weekly schedules telling you which videos to watch, which practice problems to try, and any upcoming assignments. Speaking of assignments, all assignments will be submitted electronically. Those guidelines for electronic submission can be found on our Canvas page and should be strictly followed. Assignments that are submitted incorrectly will receive a penalty. Definitely, at any time, always feel free to ask questions if you're having trouble formatting your stuff into a PDF or anything like that. Moving on to the fifth bullet here, this is just a quick reminder about the different modes of communication for our course. Since our class is completely online, there are several ways to ask questions or get help during our course. Remember, there are those weekly online office hours through Zoom. There are Canvas discussion boards for each set of exercises and each take-home quiz. And then also, I'm always available directly via email at bmitchell@elcamino.edu. The next two bullets give you guys a couple of important dates. They are both drop deadlines. The first drop deadline is at the end of week 2. It is Sunday, September 12th, 2021. That is the drop deadline that if you drop beforehand, you'll receive no notation on your permanent record and receive a full refund for the class. That is the date to drop by if you find that this asynchronous format simply just doesn't work for you, or this isn't the right class for you, or something along those lines. You want to make sure you drop before this Sunday, September 12th deadline. The second deadline is the deadline to receive a W. That is on Friday, November 19th. That is at the end of week 12. That is the deadline to drop the class if you've stayed in the class, but you're worried about perhaps getting a grade you're not happy with or a failing grade or something along those lines. You'll need to drop the course before Friday, November 19th to receive a W instead. Finally, last bullet and very important. Keep in mind that since our class is fully online, you're responsible for all the electronically issued announcements. That means you want to absolutely make sure you're checking your El Camino email on a regular basis, as well as going back and viewing our Canvas page on a regular basis. All right, after all those sort of general requirements, important dates, let's talk about a few cornerstones to success. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I think this class is immensely applicable. It's really useful to learn about statistics, especially in our more and more data-driven world. So here are a couple tips to being as successful as possible in this class and gaining as much as possible from this class. First of all, keeping up with the material and making sure that you reread and annotate your own notes and rewatch the lecture videos. Make sure to also read through the course notes I post and try as many of the suggested exercises as possible. The two things basically to mention here is first, keeping up with the material. It's very easy in an online format to let things pile up, and that makes it very hard to really understand the material. People sometimes try to power through lots of videos all at once. Unfortunately, with mathematics, oftentimes the things we're learning build on each other. So if you're trying to rush through some early videos, it makes the later ones much harder. So you want to make sure you keep up with the material as best you can. I provide you guys with weekly schedules, and I really recommend trying to follow those schedules as closely as possible. Also, trying the practice exercises, very, very important. A lot of times, when we're watching the stuff in the videos, it can seem pretty straightforward, but you really need to make sure that you can do the computations, you can understand the concepts yourself directly, and the best way to do that is trying the practice exercises. Taking good notes. Remember, you're going to have access to your notes for all your assignments and assessments. So that means that being well organized in this class makes things much easier. One of the big tips I would recommend here is that unlike a traditional live lecture where, note-taking would be making sure you get down all the information so you can reference it later, that's not as much of a concern in an online class like ours. You can always go back and re-watch the videos. What's more important is making sure you take notes about which videos you think are very important, and specifically which examples in each video might you want to reference later. That, if you take good notes on that, that'll allow you, when you're doing the quizzes or the exams, to hop back to the relevant examples or the most important definitions very quickly and efficiently. So definitely take notes about where things are located or things you want to go back to. Third one, studying adequately before the exams. Remember, there's only 3 midterms and 1 final, so each of the exams is really, really important. You want to make sure you prepare as much as possible for each of them. I don't really like throwing curveball questions at you guys for these assessments, so I provide review guides that sort of go over everything that might show up on an exam. That means it's your job to work through those review guides thoroughly, and if there is anything on there that you're not sure about, ask about it before the assessment so you're fully prepared. Finally, the last cornerstone here is making use of the resources, such as the office hours, the discussion boards, the textbook, meaning our course notes, and the other students in the class. You want to be proactive with these resources, just like communication. The sooner you reach out, the better. The last thing I sort of want to mention here is that I know that sometimes it can be difficult writing out questions, especially about mathematics and especially about things where you're just learning. It's hard to sometimes know exactly what you're trying to ask about. Never hesitate, though, to write your questions. Even if you ask something and I give you a response that doesn't quite answer the question, we'll continue to discuss back and forth. So you can ask something, I'll give you a response. You can say, that's helpful, but that's not quite what I wanted to know. And then you can ask again. It's always fine to sort of go back and forth and work our way towards getting you the direction that you need. So never hesitate to write out, even if you're not quite sure how to phrase things. Just do your best, and I'll do my best to respond and give you something helpful. All right, with all that being mentioned, let's move on to the next page of our syllabus. All right, only two things to talk about here. First, academic honesty. Keeping in mind that when there's evidence of dishonesty in any academic work, disciplinary action will be taken. This usually results in a failing grade on the exam or assignment, and it can also lead to things like suspension from the class and other disciplinary action. So the main thing to keep in mind here for our class is that our class is open course materials, so you don't need to worry about accessing the course materials while you're taking the quizzes or the exams or anything like that. You're welcome to do so, and you're encouraged to do so. What is really important is that you make sure that you turn in work that is your own. Keep in mind that any evidence that submitted work came from an outside source, including sort of methods or approaches not covered in our class, will result in failing grades on our assignment. So as long as you're sort of doing the work yourself, using the stuff that we've covered in our class, you'll be all good in terms of our class. Finally, our ADA statement. El Camino College is committed to providing educational accommodations for students with disabilities. So if there's anything you need in terms of an accommodation, please let me know as soon as possible so I can get that for you. I think this statement also applies more broadly. I want to make sure that all of you gain as much as you possibly can from this course. As I've said multiple times now, I do believe this course is very applicable and is really useful in our everyday lives. So definitely want you guys to get out as much as you possibly can. That means at any time during our course, if there's things that you need that you think will help you learn more or be more successful, please let me know and I'll do my best to accommodate you in those ways. All right, this pretty much wraps up our syllabus. The last page of our syllabus is a quiz and exam schedule. Again, remember all the quiz and exam dates are already preset, so definitely make sure that if you have other things on your schedule, you know about these dates ahead of time in case you need to shift anything around, especially for those midterm dates, which are listed there, and the final exam there. This schedule will also be on the front page of Canvas in case you want to reference it there. But if at any time you need to know when things are coming up, well, you'll see them in those weekly schedules because I'll include the upcoming due dates in there. But you also have this sort of master list of all the quiz and exam due dates. Alrighty, that pretty much wraps up our syllabus. Let me again say welcome to Math 150 for fall 2021. I'm really excited to work with all of you guys, and I think it's going to be a great term.